Chulin Daf Yomi. Today's daf, the beginning of the daf, discusses a machlokes between Rabbi Eliyahu and Rabbi Shlomo, which is very fundamental in terms of understanding the progression of eating meat in the Torah. Adam was not allowed to eat meat noyach because he captured the animals and he saved them, therefore he did have the privilege of eating meat. And Rabbi Eliyahu and Rabbi Shlomo are going to be arguing as to whether in the midbar, when Bnei Yisrael left Mitzrayim and they were living with the Mishkan, before they came to Eretz Yisrael, whether or not they were allowed to eat meat or not. The Torah says in Parshas Achri Mois that ish mi beis Yisrael asher yishchat, that wants to slaughter shor or chesed v'yeis b'machaneh, either an ox, a sheep, or a goat in the machaneh, in the camp, or asher yishchat michutz lamachaneh, or he wants to slaughter outside of the camp, ve'el pesach oil ma'id lo yaviyah, and if he did not bring it to the oil ma'id, if he did not bring it as a korban, le'akriv korban l'Hashem, then dam yechoshev lo ishahu dam shafach. It's considered as if he murdered. V'nichras, and he gets kares. There's a prohibition over here from shechting b'chutz. So machlokes between Tanaim become as to whether does this mean only specifically a korban you're not allowed to shecht outside. If you designated something as a sacrifice to bring in the Beis HaMikdash, to bring in the Mishkan, and then you decided to shecht it outside, so then you're chayav kares. That is the shita of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Shmuel's shita was no, that this pasuk was saying that any meat you want to eat at all, even if you don't want to designate it as a korban, it was totally chulin. Still, if you want to eat meat, you have to bring it as a korban. That's called basar taiva. Basar taiva is food that you want to eat just because you're hungry, just because you desire the food. And Rabbi Shmuel says that in the midbar, they were not allowed to do that unless they actually brought it as a korban. Rabbi Akiva holds no, they were allowed to do that 100%, and the only thing the pasuk in Achri Mos is saying you're not allowed to do is if you have kachin, if you have something that's already earmarked as holy, as a holy sacrifice, and that you don't bring into the Mishkan, then Rabbi Akiva says that's when you get the kares. So when we fast forward to Parshas Re'eh, and you read the pasuk that says, Ki yirchak mimucha makoim, when the Asher Yivcha Hashem Lokecha Bo, when you get to Eretz Yisrael, and the place where God chooses the Mishkan for the Mishkan to be, or for the Beis HaMikdash to be, is going to be far from where you live, because Klal Yisrael inherited the vast land of Eretz Yisrael. They're going to be far from the Beis HaMikdash. Then the Torah says, and you want, your heart's desire is to eat basar. With all your heart's desire, you can eat basar, except you have to be vizovachta. You have to shecht it. So now the question becomes, each Tana, how does he understand it? So Rabbi Shmuel understands this very simply. He says, until now, we were not allowed to eat any basar taiva. Any korban had to be brought, any animal that you wanted to eat at all, every single animal had to be brought as a korban. Had to be brought to the Beis HaMikdash in the desert, which was the Mishkan. It had to be brought to the Mizbeach as a korban. According to Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbi Shmuel, what the Torah is saying, according to Rabbi Shmuel, the Torah is saying that until now, basar taiva was asur. You had to bring it to the Mishkan. Now you're coming to Eretz Yisrael, and you're going to be very far from the Beis HaMikdash, and we're not going to require you bring it as a korban. Therefore, all you have to do is shecht it, and it'll be okay. You have to shecht it at home, and it's called chulin. It's not kachin. You don't have to bring it to the mizbeach whatsoever. According to Rabbi Shmuel, that's the progression of the psukim. Basar taiva is also in the midbar. When you get to Eretz Yisrael, it becomes fine. According to Rabbi Akiva, basar taiva was fine all along. So why does the pasuk in Parshas Re'eh tell me that I can eat meat with all my heart's desire if I shecht it? That's totally fine. We know this already. You always could have had meat with your heart's desire. So it says Rabbi Akiva, from here we see that until they got to Eretz Yisrael, they did not have to do shechita. While they were in the midbar, all they had to do was kill the animal. In whatever way you want to kill the animal, you want to rip the neck open, you want to shoot it, whatever you want. All you have to do is kill the animal, and then you'll be allowed to eat it. And only once they get to Eretz Yisrael, that's when the halachos of shechita kicked in. And according to him, that's what the Chiddush of Parshas Re'eh is saying, is that when you get to Eretz Yisrael, you have to be v'zovachta. Okay, so now our study is going to be discussing this machlokes Tanoim, and we're going to be starting on Daf Tezayin with a Beis, a few lines from the bottom, by the two dots. The Gemara says, the Mishnah said, Hakol Sheichtin, Ul Olam Sheichtin. Says the Gemara, Hakol Sheichtin means Hakol B'shchita, means any animal has to be shechted, v'afilu oivet, even a bird. What about the clause L'olam Sheichtin, the next clause in the Mishnah? Forever we have to shecht. What does this mean? What is this coming to say? Says the Gemara, Man Tana. Which Tana is this going according to? Amar Rabba, Rabbi Shmuel, this is going according to Rabbi Shmuel. The Tanya, Rabbi Shmuel says, Ki yarchiv Hashem elekechas gevulcha. The pasuk in Parshas Re'eh says that when God broadens your borders, meaning when He'll give you the land of Israel, kasher dibelach like I spoke to you, v'omartan, you say, Oichel basar, I want to eat meat. Ki se'aven nafshecha lechol basar, because your heart desires to eat meat. B'chol avas nafshecha, says the pasuk, with all your heart's desire, go ahead and eat meat. Tochal basar. By the way, Rosag counts this as a mitzvah's essay, that there's a mitzvah to eat meat when your heart desires it. Just a side note. Anyway, the pasuk continues, Ki rechak mimucha mokem asher yivchar Hashem lokecha lasum shemoy sham v'zovachta. So when you become far away from the Beis HaMikdash, where Hashem decides to place His Shechina there, then you're going to be v'zovachta mi bekorcha mi tzaynecha asher nosan Hashem lecha kasher tzivisicha, like I commanded you. So says Rabbi Shmuel oimer lo yiba kosav elo lahatir lahem basar taiva. The pasuk is only coming to permit them to eat meat that they desired to eat. Basar taiva. Shebitchilin nesan basar taiva. Because in the beginning, basar taiva was asur for them to eat. Mishenich sul aretz. But from when they came to Eretz Yisrael, hutar lahem basar taiva. It became mutar. The achshav shegalu. Now we're going to come to explain what it means in the Mishnah. La'olam sheichim. Forever you have to shecht. The achshav shegalu. But now that we've been exiled from Eretz Yisrael, maybe we'll go back to our original prohibition, just like before we got to Israel, it was asur to eat basar taiva. Maybe also after we leave, we'll still continue, but we'll be asur. We won't continue to be allowed to have basar taiva. We're going to go back to the original prohibition that was noiheg in chutz la'aretz, in the midbar. Therefore, the Mishnah tells us no. Always you can shecht. Don't think that once you're exiled from the land, the original prohibition kicks in again. Says the Gemara, Maskef lo Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef asks the question, Hay le'olam sheichtim. It shouldn't say le'olam sheichtim. This clause that says le'olam sheichtim, it shouldn't say le'olam sheichtim, because it should say le'olam sheichtim va'oichlim. Because the chiddush over here that the Mishnah is trying to teach me is not that I have to shecht. The chiddush is that basar taiva remains mutter, and therefore, in that it should say that the chiddush is le'olam sheichtim va'oichlim, and you're allowed to eat. That's what it should say. That's what it needs to say. Says the Gemara, another question. V'oid asks Rabbi Yossi, Meikara, my time itzar. Why was it asur in the midbar to eat basar taiva? Why did you have to bring every animal as a carbon, as kachin? We shouldn't have them carved in the Mishkan, because they were so close to the Mishkan, and we say you may as well bring it as a carbon. Well, besides my time ishtaru, and later on, how come it became mutter once they came into Eretz Yisrael? Because they were far away from the Mishkan, and therefore Hashem said, I'm not going to make you go so much out of your way just to eat meat, and therefore God permitted you to eat meat just for desire without making a carbon. It says the Gemara, so now you want to tell me when we're exiled from the land of Israel, so now of course it should be mutter, because we're even further from the Beis HaMikdash, right? So what reasoning would be logical to say that when I leave Eretz Yisrael, I need an extra thing? I would think that you are not allowed to have basar taiva anymore. That doesn't make sense. Elam Rabbi Yosef, so Rabbi Yosef says no. Rabbi Akiva, the Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Akiva. The Tanya, there's a brayso about Rabbi Akiva's shita. When the place where Hashem decides, meaning the Beis HaMikdash, will become distant from you, where Hashem decides to put His name there, meaning the Beis HaMikdash, then you have to shecht from your bakar and your tzayin, from your ox and your sheep. Rabbi Akiva explains this pasuk to me. This pasuk is only coming to teach me less or lohen basar nechira. To say that from when you get to the land of Israel and on, now you're not allowed to rip the animal's neck open. Because originally in the Midbar they were allowed to have basar nechira. But from when they entered the land, then it became prohibited. The Achshav Shegalu, and now that they were exiled and they left Eretz Yisrael, maybe they should go back to their original leniency that you don't have to shecht, and all you have to do is kill the animal. That's why it says that don't think once you're exiled you're allowed to be more lenient and you don't have to slaughter. All you have to do is kill the animal. No, still, even after you leave the land, shchita applies and you must shecht. So it comes out that according to Rabbi Akiva, in the middle they did not have to do shecht. Shchita only started when they got to Eretz Yisrael. Asks the Gemara, what is this machlekes? Rabbi Akiva savar basar taiva le'itzar klal. Rabbi Akiva holds basar taiva was never aser. And the pasuk in Achrei Mos is only saying that any kachim you have to bring it to the mizbech. Otherwise, it's called shchutei chutz. You're taking kachim and shachting it outside of the mishkan, and that's a problem. Rishmal savar. Rishmal holds no. Basar nechira leishtri klal. Basar nechira was never. You never allowed. Even in the midbar, you were never allowed to just rip open an animal or kill it without shchita. You always had to do shchita. Bishlam. Now the Gemara says bishlam or bishmal. It makes sense according to Bishmal. Hainu diksiv v'shochat es ben abakar. That's what it says by karbonis. It says you have to slaughter the ben abakar. So according to Rabbi Shmuel, you see that the Torah talks about shchita. You see shchita does apply because by karbonis it's mentioned the shachat is ben abakar. The kohen has to slaughter the ben abakar in actual shchita. Elo Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbi Akiva, my v'shachat. Why do you have to be v'shachat? I thought shchita didn't apply. I thought nechira was okay in the midbar. Says the Gemara, no, kachim shiny. Kachim is different. According to Rabbi Akiva, by kachim all along you had to shecht. You couldn't do nechira. By kachim, only by chulin. Says the Gemara, Bishlama. Now the Gemara is going to ask another kasha on Rabbi Akiva. Bishlama, Rabbi Shmuel. It's good according to Rabbi Shmuel. When Klal Yisrael asked for animals, so Moshe Rabbeinu was speaking to Hashem and he said, even if you have atzayin ubakar, all the sheep and all the cattle will be slaughtered for them, it still won't be enough. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying. But either way, we see from the way Moshe expressed himself, he said that the tzayin and the bakar would have to be shechted. Atzayin ubakar yishachet lahem. So you see that shchita applied. El Rabbi Akiva, my atzayin ubakar yishachet lahem. What does it mean atzayin ubakar yishachet lahem? You don't need shchita. Says Gemara, it should say yinacher lahem. Just they should rip, and just any type of kill, any ripping should be enough. Why does he use the lashon shchita? Says the Gemara, nechira shelahen zu shchitasan. You're right. Back then, shchita just meant nechira. I mean, don't think that when it said shchita, it meant specifically the same shchita that we call when you have to actually slice it with all the hilchos shchita. No. When it said shchita, it meant nechira. That's really what it meant. Bishlam Rabbi Shmuel. Another question. According to Rabbi Shmuel, it's fine. If there's a Mishnah later on that says if someone shechts and the animal became an avela, and if you rip open the animal's neck without shchita, and if you do ikur, meaning if you pull out the simanim, you uproot the simanim from their proper place, says the Gemara, it says the Mishnah, potter milachasais, you're exempt from doing kisei hadam. The Torah says there's a mitzvah, you have to cover the blood. After you slaughter a chaya or oif, you have to cover the blood. So let's say one of these things happened. These three things, either became an avela, or you did nechira, or you were ma'aker. In these three situations, because you're not allowed to eat the animal, because it's also to eat, so therefore, you're also exempt from covering the blood. Says the Gemara, according to Rabbi Shmuel, this makes sense. Elo Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbi Akiva, my patum l'chasas, why are you exempt from covering? According to Rabbi Akiva, nechira was a totally legitimate way to be mater the animal. Back in the midbar, when they used to do nechira, and nechira was the way that you permitted the animal to be eaten, and then after nechira was done, you had to cover the blood. So why? So according to Rabbi Akiva, even if you do nechira, you should rechayev b'chasais. Says the Gemara, no, even Rabbi Akiva agrees that once nechira became aser, and the proper way to allow an animal to be eaten was shchita, so then he holds it became fully asr, and just like it became fully asr, now you are exempt from being mechase the dam, from covering the blood. So the Gemara, Bishlon Rabbi Akiva. Now the Gemara is going to ask a question of Rabbi Shmuel. It's good according to Rabbi Akiva, the Amar Basar Taiva Litzar Klal, that he holds Basar Taiva was never asr. How do you deceive? Ach kasher yeyochel satzeviv esayol kein tachilenu. The Torah talks about something that's chulin. A bechar that has a balmum, it says that it's chulin and you can eat it like you eat the deer and the ram, which means it's trying to say a deer and a ram never are kachin because they can never come as a carbon because they're chayos, they're not behemos. And therefore, the Torah says this animal, which doesn't have any kedusha anymore, you can eat it like a deer and a ram, which doesn't have any kedusha. So, according to Rabbi Akiva, it makes sense because the Torah is referencing a certain animal that you are allowed to eat. Then, according to Rabbi Akiva, you're allowed to eat a tzvi and an ayal, and the Torah is saying that this bechar that lost its kedusha, you're allowed to eat it like an ayal and a tzvi. Which means, obviously, you're allowed to eat an ayal and tzvi, but according to Rabbi Shmuel, you're not allowed to eat an ayal and tzvi because basar taiva is asar. And you couldn't bring it as a carbon either, because ayal and tzvi don't have karbanis, aren't brought as a carbon. El Rabbi Shmuel, tzvi ayal gufei, tzvi and ayal themselves, mihavi sharia, are they allowed? They weren't allowed, because basar taiva is asar. Says the Gemara, no, ki asar rachmana behema, when the Torah made asar, basar taiva, that you're not allowed to have any meat, that's only behema, the chazir l'akrova. That was only the type of behema, the type of animal which is allowed, which can be brought as a carbon. Because again, the Torah wanted you to bring it as a carbon and not just eat it plain. Aval chaya, but a chaya, which means a not domesticated animal, like a deer and an ayol, the lo chazir l'akrova, that anyway couldn't have been brought as a carbon. So even Rabbi Shmuel agrees, lo yasar rachmana, that they were allowed to eat. So it comes out, according to Rabbi Shmuel, chayos, they were allowed to eat in the midbar. Only behemoths they weren't allowed to eat because behemoths can be brought as a carbon. And therefore, the Torah does reference tzvi and ayol, because even according to Rabbi Shmuel, you were allowed to eat a tzvi and an ayol. Ba'i Rav Yirmiyah. Continues the Gemara. Rav Yirmiyah has a question. Every basar nechira. Let's say back when they left the midbar and they entered Eretz Yisrael with Yoshua. Let's say someone had every basar nechira. He had the limbs of an animal that you ripped open. You didn't do shchita, you just ripped it open. And now you have these limbs, and now you enter Eretz Yisrael with it. So obviously he's asking the question according to Rabbi Akiva, who holds that before they entered Eretz Yisrael, all you had to do was kill the animal, and that made it mutter. And now once you get to Eretz Yisrael, the halachos of shchita kick in. So let's say you have meat from outside Eretz Yisrael, from the midbar, which was permitted when you were outside because shchita didn't apply, and then you brought it in. But now you're in a place that the halachos of shchita do apply. So are you now allowed to eat those ivarim? So every basar nechira, the limbs of an animal that you ripped, sheichniso Yisrael liman, that Bnei Yisrael brought in with them la'aretz to Eretz Yisrael mahu. What is the halacha? It says the Gemara, Emas. When do you mean that you want to eat this? If you mean in the 7 years that Klal Yisrael was still capturing the land. Hashta davar tamei ishteriluhu. If even now, even a davar tamei, they were allowed to eat. In those 7 years, they were allowed to eat anything impure. Diksiv, like we learned from the pasuk, ubotim, the Torah says that you'll find houses mileim kol tuv, filled with so many good things. The Amar Rav Abba, and Rav Yirmiyah says, what does this mean? Amar Rav, in the name of Rav, Katli de Chaziri. The Torah is allowing these warriors who are capturing the land in those 7 years to eat even the dry pigs. Rashi says bacons, dry pigs. Even that they're allowed to eat. So during those 7 years when they captured, they were allowed to eat even pigs. Basar nechira mibaya. Of course, they would be allowed to eat the basar nechira, the every basar nechira that they brought in. If they could even eat something that's always not kosher, even that never was okay, of course they could eat every basar nechira. Says the Gemara, Elo lachar mikan. You're right. Our question is not during those 7 years. Only after those 7 years. Because only during the 7 years, only during a milchama, only the warriors during milchama, they're the ones who are allowed to, who have this leniency that they're allowed to eat anything not kosher during the war. The Rambam says only if they're hungry even. It's got to be only if they're hungry. So that's only while they're fighting during the first 7 years. Our question, we're wondering, how about after 7 years? After they finished fighting already, everything was okay, so they were not allowed to eat pigs anymore. The question is, how about these? If they preserved these limbs of the basar nechira, can they still eat it now because it had its original heter of chutz la'aretz, the nechira was allowed back then? Or we say that since you brought it into Eretz Yisrael, we require shchita, and this basar did not have shchita. Says the Gemara, no, maybe I'll tell you, really the question is even in the 7 years that they were capturing, that they were fighting still, what was permitted for them to eat tameh, what not kosher things were permitted, not everything, not always, it was only shalal shel avdei kechavim, only the booty that they captured from the avdei kechavim, only the stuff that they actually took from the avdei kechavim. But if they were back home and they couldn't just have their own pigs, they weren't allowed to eat pigs, just a general leniency. It was only at the situation when they were capturing and taking all the stuff from the avdei kechavim, that's when they were allowed to eat the not kosher. But their own leishri was not permitted, and therefore we would have the question of if they brought every basar nechira, is that permitted or not? The Rambam even says that he had to be hungry, even if it's the booty of avdei kechavim. While you go to war, you have to be hungry. It's not a general leniency that it's just mutter for warriors to eat not kosher. Okay, Rashi makes an interesting point here, and he says that what's the point of this question? It's really just a historical question, because now shchita, everyone holds you chayav to do shchita. So the question is way back then, if someone would have brought from the Midbar to Eretz Yisrael, so there's no practical difference. The question only is it's theoretical. It's a question in history. What would have been the halacha? So Rashi says, it's just drush v'kabel schar. It's just he's darshaning, to get schar. He's learning. There's no practical consequence that's going to come about by knowing this question, by knowing the answer to this question. It's just drush v'kabel schar. Because we have to know the truth, even though it's history, it's not going to be relevant anymore. The Rosh over here argues and says it can't be that the Gemara is discussing something that's irrelevant. He says that every question the Gemara discusses must have a practical relevance, and he explains that we learn from here different halachos as to whether something that was permitted and then became asur, can it stay permitted for you or not? For example, if you have there are some places that have the minhag that you're not allowed to eat the butter of a non-Jew. Some places hold it's fine. Let's say you come from a place where it's fine and you have your butter from a non-Jew, and the custom in your place that it's mutter, and then you move to a place that it's prohibited. How about the butter you bring with you? So he says it would be the same question, that every basar nechira should be, if every basar nechira are still okay, so then the butter you bring with you from the place where it was okay, even though you're right now in a place where it's prohibited, still it's okay for you, because you can maintain your original custom, your original leniency. I think I even saw a chidah that says that during the 9 days you're not allowed to eat meat, but the leftovers of Shabbos, on Shabbos you're allowed to eat meat during the 9 days. So the leftovers of Shabbos are also okay because of this. So we can see where this question takes the different poskim. Continues the Gemara, Amar Rava. Rava says, Shanis hakol sheichtin u'lo'elam sheichtin. So you explained the two clauses of hakol sheichtin and lo'elam sheichtin. This we explained. How about, says the Gemara, the next clause of bakol sheichtin, with anything you could shecht? My mashnis, how are you going to explain that? Maybe you're telling me it means anything, even a rock, even a reed, even a piece of glass. Says the Gemara, no, that can't be, because hadumya dehanach katoni. It has to be similar to the other clauses that are right next to it. Meaning when it says akol shaychtim, la'olam shaychtim, bakol shaychtim, the subject matter has to be the same. If these are talking about the shaychtim, so hainami b'shaychtim. Meaning all three of them have to either be dealing with the person who is slaughtering, the slaughterer. The ihanach ben ishchatim, and if these are all dealing with nishchatim, the things that are being shechted, then hainami ben ishchatim. Then all of them have to be dealing with the thing that's being shechted. So Rava's question is, you told me Hakol Sheichtim is not like Hakol Sheichtim in the beginning of the Masechta. Hakol Sheichtim is a new Hakol Sheichtim. It means that even an animal, which means even an oif, all animals that have to be shechted, even an oif, which means that you're telling me that this sentence in the Mishnah that's comprised of the three clauses Hakol Sheichtim, Olam Sheichtim, and Bakol Sheichtim is not dealing with the person who's shechting. It's the subject is what is being shechted, and the oif is being shechted. So if so, it has to be consistent, and you have to explain bakol shechtim also not to mean what is shechting, i.e. the knife that is shechting. You have to explain it as something that is being shechted. And if you want to say that they're all dealing with the shechtim, so then you have to, the ones that are being that are shechting, and that the subject of the Mishnah is the person who's shechting, or the thing that's shechting, so then you have to say that Hakol Sheichtim is not dealing with an oiv, is dealing with the shechter. So Rava has his own explanation in these three clauses in the Mishnah. Hakol Sheichtim, this Hakol Sheichtim plus the Hakol Sheichtim in the beginning of the Masechta is Chada le'isuye kusi. It's one is to include a kusi. We said that even according to Rava, even a kuzi could shecht. V'chada l'asuyi Yisrael, and one is to include a Yisrael who's a mummer, who's an over averis. And both of these, Rava holds the shchitas kosher, the kusi when you have a Yisrael coming in and out, and the Yisrael mummer who's an over avera if you check the knife for him. And this we learned before. That's the first clause of Hakol Sheichtim. The second clause, La'olam Sheichtim, is saying Bein b'yom u'bein b'layla. La'olam Sheichtim it's also dealing with the shechting process, not the thing that's being shechted, but the person who's shechting, and he can always shecht Bein b'yom and Bein b'layla, whether it's during the day, whether during the night, Bein b'reish hagag, Bein b'reish hasfina, whether he's at the head of the roof or at the head of a boat. That's what La'olam Sheichtim is teaching me. La'olam Sheichtim is not saying that it always has to be shechted. The subject isn't the thing that's being shechted, and it has to always be shechted even when you get exiled from Eretz Yisrael. No, what it's saying is dealing with the sheichet. The first case is dealing with who's the sheichet. The second case is dealing with the sheichet can shecht during the day, during the night, or even at the Rosh Hagag or the Rosh of Sfina. And then the last case is also talking about the sheichet. Bakol sheichtim you can shecht with anything. A tzor, a rock, bein meschuchas, a piece of glass, or a kum mishal kana. So Rava chooses the side of sheichtim, meaning that the subject of this sentence in the Mishnah is the person who's shechting. The shechter has to do it with a knife, and it can do it anywhere, and it can be even a kusi. He says if you say it's talking about nishchatim, then you have to be consistent, and you have to find a different shot for Bakol Sheichtim. Continues the Gemara. Chutz mi magal katzir megera. The Mishnah said you cannot shecht with a magal katzir. Rashi explained that means if you have a knife that has ridges, but the ridges are all directed one way. Which means if you shecht in the correct way, so then you're not going to have any begima, because all the ridges, it's not going to rip, because from one direction it's all smooth, only the other direction you're going to get all the ridges. Now Megera is a sauce. If you do with that, also it's not good. Avod Shmuel Pogam, the father of Shmuel, he B'dafka specifically made a pgima in the knife. He made a nick in the knife v'shadar, and then he sent it. He sent it to the Rabbanim in Eretz Yisrael for him to tell him, to let him know, is this Aser? V'shadar, Pagam Ashadar, again, he made a nick, another nick, and he sent Shalchulei, he said, Kimegera Shaninu. These are fine because we said that the nick in the knife, they said that the nick in the knife has to be like a saw. What does it mean like a saw? So Rashi explains, just like a saw has when the nick in the saw is indented, I would say like a V, and it has 2 points to it, and that point, the 2 points are not kosher. But if the pima only has 1 point, so then it's fine. If you see, for example, the way the Sefer Sichas Chulin explains it, is if you have this knife right here, if the pgima is like a V, so now there are 2 ridges. There's the ridge on the right and the ridge on the left, and your finger is going to be stopped. If you would run your nail down the length of the knife, it would be stopped in both places. So that is considered a nick like a knife, like a saw. But if it's only 1 ridge, because the other one was flattened out, the other one you smoothed out with the whetstone, so now you only have 1 ridge, so then it's not a problem. That is what they sent back to Avudah Shlomo. Okay, we'll see the Gemara discussing more. Tan Rabbanan. The Chachamulin. Sakin Sheish B'Pkim Tzarba, a knife that has a lot of nicks, Tidin Kimegera, should have a rule like a saw. If it has too many, so it's puzzle. If it only has 1 nick, so if it's a geres, if it gathers your finger in, meaning your finger gets stuck there, then it's psula. But if it's misuchseches, if it's just indented, then it's kosher. Asks the Gemara, what's the case of ogeres and misuchseches? What's the exact difference? Ogeres is mishtei ruchos. Just like we said before, ogeres means that the nick in the knife is so sharp that it blocks your finger. If your finger is in the nick, then it blocks it from both directions. You can't go either way because of the nick. Because again, we said it's like a V, and then your finger goes in the indentation and can't go either way. And there are 2 uktzim, there are 2 sharp points from both directions. But a misuchseches is only ruach achas. It's one if you had that and then you flattened out one of the sharp points, and so now you only have 1 ukitz, and that's going to be kosher. Asks the Gemara, what's the difference that we say when you have 2 uktzim, you have 2 sharp points, they constitute the nick. Demur shekama, that the first edge, the first protrusion, machlish makes means when the first protrusion passes over the neck, it makes the skin weak. It doesn't actually rip it, because it's only one ukitz, it's only one protrusion, so it only makes it weaker. But the Mursha Basra, the next protrusion, Baza, does actually rip the skin and therefore makes it treif. And the shechita is invalid. So he says that's why when a geras it's puzzle, right? So meruach achas nami, but even if you only have 1, so what? Churfa de sakina machlish, even if by kisim misuchseches, it should also be a problem, because the churfa of a sakin is machlish. The sharpness of the knife should weaken the neck, and then the mursha, and then when the protrusion comes, even though it's only 1 protrusion, it should be balzai, it should rip the neck, so it should also be a problem. Says the Gemara, no, the kohen marish de sakina. What we mean is that this nick is at the head, at the top of the knife, and since it's at the top of the knife, therefore it's not going to cause a problem. Says the Gemara, ki azla machlasha Oh, what does it make a difference? So too, it's still going to go, and the sharpness of the knife is going to make it weak, and then ki asa baza, and then when you get to the mursha, even though it's at the top of the knife, what does it make a difference? At the end of the day, when you're slicing back and forth, you're going to get to that point, and it's going to make it. It's going to make it. It's going to rip it. The sharpness of the knife is going to make it the neck weak, and then when it gets to that point, it's going to rip it, even though it's at the end. So what if it's at the end? I understand it might not happen so quickly because it's not at the central part of the knife, but it still is going to hit it at some point. Says the Gemara, no, which means you only move the knife one way. You didn't move it the other way. And since you only went one way, we're not. And let's say if the nick is at the end of the knife, and you only started the shchita with the portion of the knife that's after the nick, and you only went the other direction. You didn't use the direction of the knife that has the nick. Therefore, it's going to be fine. Amar Rava says Rava Gimel Midas Pesakim. There are three different types of halachos regarding a knife. Ogeres lo yishchot. Ogeres you shouldn't shecht at all. Like we said, if it's a full nick that has two sharp edges that are by the nick, so then you shouldn't shecht it off. And if you shecht, it's psula. Mesuchseches, if it's mesuchsech, again the case when there's one nick, when there's you call it half a nick. When there's only one ukitz, there's only one sharp point, the other part was flattened out. That lo yishchot b'lechatchila. The chatchila you shouldn't do it. Shachat, if you did shchitas l'kshera, oile v'yored, the case of, let's say you had a big pgam, and then you sharpened it. You took a whetstone and you sharpened it, and you flattened out the ukitz. But now the knife is not even. It still goes up and goes down. So it's oile v'yored. So he says that sheichet v'lechatchila. That's fine even the chatchila. Amar le Rav Huna de Rav Nachem le Rav Ashi. Rav Huna says to Rav Ashi, Amart loch mishnei de Rav mitzalseches psula. You told us in the name of Rava that Misuchseches is puzzle. Amar Tanya, depends on the gear says, Amar Rava Misuchseches Ksher. Meaning we said over here, we just had Rava say that Shchitas is Ksher by Misuchseches. And you told us that Misuchseches is in the name of Rava that it's puzzle. So we have a contradiction. Is Misuchseches Ksher a puzzle? Says Rabashi Leikasha, Kansha Hoich Vevi, Kansha Hoich Veloihevi. Again, just like the Gemara explained before, that the only time the Sufseches is kosher is if you only go one direction and you're not going to hit nick. But Hoich Vevi is puzzle. So when Rava said it's puzzle, it's when he actually sliced and he went both directions. But when it's kosher is when you only went one direction and that Mesuchsuch nick never was used for the shchita. That part of the knife was never used. Omer le Rav Acha Brei de Rav Avia, the Rav Ashi. Rav Acha says to Rav Ashi, Damya Lisaso Mai. What about a Damya Lisaso? So Rashi explains that this means if you have a knife that's comparative, Damya Lisasa to a Sasa. What's a Sasa? Rashi says it means an old stalk that's not smooth. So basically it means that you have a knife that's not smooth. There's no actual nick, there's no actual ridge with any ukitz, with any sharp point coming out or coming into the knife. It's not smooth. It's very not sharpened. But there's no actual place that you could point to a nick. Is that kosher? Is that kosher? He says yes. He says, "Amarle man yohiv lan mibsarei v'achlina." I wish. Who could give me from that meat of an animal that was shechted with that knife, and I would eat it. Meaning, he's saying it's totally fine. Says the Gemara, "Omer Rav Chisda minayin lebdika sakin min haTorah." How do you know that you have to check the knife min haTorah? Shenemar brings a pasuk from Shmuel, "Ushchattem bozeh." Says in the pasuk you should shecht with this v'achaltem. Shaul told the people shecht with this and then you can eat it. So you see, he specifically told them that you should shecht with something. obviously it was something that was checked. He was saying, just with this. Why just with this? Because this was checked. So you see, you have to check the knife. Says the Gemara, Pshita, of course. Why do you even need a pasuk? Kevan dechinokav treifa. Once it makes a hole in the veshet, what's the issue with the nick in the knife? That it's going to make a hole in the neck. It's going to make a hole in the veshet. So then it becomes treif. So what do I need a pasuk? So of course, ba'yu bedika. Of course, you need to check the knife just because if there's a nick, then it's going to make it treif. Meaning, I don't need a pasuk. Why are you telling me I need a pasuk to teach me that you need to check it? Says the Gemara, no, the chacham kamin, and I mean that you have to check it by a chacham. So this pasuk means that Shaul checked the knife, and it's saying, oh, this was good because it was checked by a chacham. You see, you have to check it by a chacham. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? Rabbi Eliyahu say, lo amru lahar sakin b'chacham. They didn't mean that you actually have to show your sakin to a chacham, elam b'nei kvod shel chacham. Only to show respect to the chacham, that you respect his authority when you come to town and you become a shaychet, you're respecting the rabbi by giving him your knives to check. But it's not a real halacha that you have to show to a chacham. So that's not what the pasuk is saying. That's not integral to shchita, really. So again, what would this pasuk be teaching me? Says the Gemara, midirabanan ukras machta ba'almuhu. It's of course you're right. It's only midirabanan. The din is only midirabanan that you have to give it to a chacham, and we're just using the kra. That's not what the kra means to teach me, and that I would learn that it's a din from the pasuk that you have to actually show it to a chacham. It's only midirabanan, and the pasuk is just a smach. We're just using it as a just to throw it onto a pasuk as a hint. Okay, B'marova in Eretz Yisrael, bad kilei b'shimsha. They would check a knife in the sun. They would put it up to the sun, and with the light of the sun, they would be able to see whether there's a nick or not. Rashi has another shot. Maybe they would put the knife to the sun, and then they would look at the shadow that the knife creates, and if they would see a something missing in the shadow, they would know that there's a nick in the knife. The shadow wasn't smooth. In the city of Nardo, they would check it with water. Rashi says either they would take the knife and cut it over water. They would take the knife and smooth water out with it. And then you would see if there's a ridge in the water, if there's something not smooth in the water, you would know that there's a nick in the knife. Or Rashi says maybe you just take water and pour it over the sharp part of the knife, and you would see that if the water doesn't go down smooth, it moves, so you know that there's a nick. Different ways they used to check it. Risheshis would check it with his tongue, the tip of his tongue. And if you felt a nick, you would know it's possible. You would check it with a piece of hair. Besura Amri. Bisra, achla bisra labatka. In Surah they used to say that since you're eating meat, meaning you're checking the meat, you're shechting the meat with the knife, so you have to use bisra, you have to use your basar, your own flesh to check it. Because the whole point is we want to know whether the friction caused by the slicing of the knife onto the basar will cause a tear with this knife if there's a nick. So too over here you have to, the way you test it is with basar, with something that has the same amount of friction. Omar Papa says you need to check it with your flesh and with your nail, and some have the girsa the atrei gisni on plus either tlasa ruchsa or trei gisni. Basically it means on all, you have to check it on all three sides. You have to check it on the sides. On the sides of the knife, in addition to the regular sharpness of the knife. So you have to run your finger, your basar, and your nail. Right, your nail and your basar on all three directions. So that the three directions are the actual the chud of the knife, the sharp part of the knife, and then on the sides also. Maybe there's a nick on the side of the knife. Omar le Ravina le Ravashi. Ravina tells Rav Ashi, Omer Lan Rav, Sama brother Mishashim Mishmach. Rav Sama said, in your name, the Amartli Mishmei de Rava, that you told him the name of Rava, that Tzricha B'dika Abisra V'tufra V'atlas Aruchla. You have to check with your flesh, with your nail, and on all three sides. So Ravina told Rav Ashi that Rav Sama told them in Rav Ashi's name, that Rav Ashi said in the name of Rava that you need to check in this way, with Bisr, with Tufra, and with all three directions of the knife. Amarle, Abisra Tufra Amri. I said, you're right, I said you have to check it with your flesh and with your nail. But I never said that you have to check it on all three sides. He said, yes, I said that. I said that you have to check it on all three sides also. Which made the Rava Amri. But Rav Ashi says, I never said it in the name of Rava. So that part of the statement was wrong. Ravina v'Ravacha b'rei the Rava, Havayasvi came to Rav Ashi, they were sitting in front of Rav Ashi. I sakin came to Rav Ashi, someone brought a knife in front of Rav Ashi, the Badka to check it. Amar the Rav Acha b'rei the Rava, he tells Rav Acha, go check the knife, Bidka, Badka, so he checks it, Atufra v'Abisra, he used his nail, and his skin, his flesh, V'atlas Aruchsan, he checked it on all three sides. Amar le, Yaishar, you did good. Meaning Rav Ashi agreed that that's the way it should be done. And so Rav Kana said that Rav Yemar said Atufra v'Abisra tzricha atlas aruchza loy tzricha. So Rav Kana said that Rav Yemar said you don't need it on atlas aruchza. It says the Gemara, what's his reasoning? Milay Amar Rav Zera, did Rav Zera Amar Shmuel not say that Liban Sakar Meshachat Ba, if you made a knife really, really hot, like the Gemara we had before, and then you shachted Shchitas Shera, why? Shechiduda, because its sharpness comes Kaidim Libuna, comes before the Libun. The Kashilan, so meaning you're not burning, even though the knife is so hot, you're not burning the neck off, because the sharpness of the knife is what cuts it before the heatness burns the neck. The Kashilan, and we had a question, Ha'ikatz Dadin, what do you mean? You're very nice that the sharpness of the knife, the very tip of the knife, hits the neck first, but what about the sides? Once you go inside a little bit, so then the sides of the knife are already going to burn the veshet. It's going to burn the esophagus, and that's going to cause a nick in the esophagus. And so now during the shechita, you started burning off the esophagus. That should make it puzzle. And what did we answer? Ve'amrinan Bey, and we explained that Ve'amrinan, we said beis hashchita mirvach rovach, that the place of shechita, it's very taut, and therefore when you chop a little bit, when you slice and you do the shechita a little bit, so then right away it throws back, it goes back and shrinks. So then the sides of the knife are not going to hit it. So too the Gemara says over here, also over here, Hachanami beis hashchita mirvach rovach, because the beis hashchita is very, very tight. Therefore, when you shecht with the tip of the knife, so then it's going to expand right away, and if it's going to jump and expand right away, so then even if you have a nick on the side of the knife, it's not going to tear through the esophagus because it's on the side, because the esophagus actually expands very quickly and doesn't stay on top of the side of the knife, and therefore he says you don't have to check the sides of the knife. Amar Ravuna bar Rav Katina Amar Shimon ben Lakish. Sholosh pegimasim. There are three types of pegimas. Pegimas etzem bepesach. When you the knife of the bone of a korban pesach, you are not allowed to break. And so if you make a pegima in the bone of a korban pesach, that's also asur, because it's like it constitutes the breaking of a bone. It's like you broke a bone. Pegimas oizen bechar. A bechar has to be tum. You can't have a mum. So if you have a bechar that had a pegima, a nick in its ear, So that already renders it disqualified to be brought as a carbon, and then it becomes chulin. It's shechted not in the Beis Hamikdash. And also pgimas mum bekachim. If you have certain kachim that can't be brought as a bukhar, like females that come as chatas and shlomim, so them, if they get a pgima, Rashi explains specifically in places where a bukhar can't. The reason why I have to tell you both of these cases is because by regular kachim, sometimes you have a pgima that won't apply like to a bukhar. Let's say in the female genital area, these nekeva animals that come as chatas and shlomim, if they get a nick in that area, so then it also renders them disqualified, and it's called a blemish. It's called a mum. They're not tmimus, and you can't bring them as a carbon. So therefore, Rav Huna is saying that all these three things have the same shear of pegima. The kachim, the bachar, and the shviras etzem bepesach all have the same amount of pegima. It's the same shear, the same measurement of a pegima is what passes it. Reb Chisda Amar, Reb Chisda adds, af pegima sakin, so too the pegima of a knife for shchita. The idach, and the other one who doesn't count, who only said 3 and not the sakin, he's saying b'chulin like kamayri. I wasn't dealing with chulin. Really, he agrees with him. He just wasn't counting the chulin cases. The kulan pgimasim kedei pgimas mizbeach, and all of them, the sheer pegima is the shear that the mizbeach becomes disqualified for, because the Torah says you have to have a full mizbeach. You can't have a nick in the mizbeach, in the stones of the mizbeach. The Torah says avonim shleimos tivne. You have to have complete rocks that make up the mizbeach, and if there's a nick in the rocks, then it becomes disqualified. And okay, so all these nicks are disqualifying when they are the same measurement as the pgima mizbeach. Says the Gemara, "V'kama pgima mizbeach," and how much is the pgima mizbeach? Kedei shetachkor b'tziporin. It has to be big enough that a nail will get stuck in it. Even if it's that small that a nail gets stuck in it, it becomes disqualified. Meisivei, when I ask the question, how much is the shear of a pgimas mizbeach? It's a full tefach, a hand's breadth, not a chagiras tziporin, not enough. Not even if a nail could get stuck, it has to be a tefach. It has to be an olive. It's still much more than a tziporin. Whereas like kasha habasida habavna, this if it's made out of a seed, out of limestone, and you made your mizbeach out of something not avanim. So then if it has a nick, it's fine, unless it's a nick as big as a tefach or a zayis, according to Rabbi Eliyahu Yaakov. Ha be'avna, our situation where even a nick as small as that a nail could get stuck in it, a fingernail could get stuck in it, that is when the mizbeach is made out of stones, and it passes even in that small of a nick. Ad kan chulin daf yud zayin.